Joe Biden has won the American presidential election. The BBC projects that he has reached 270 electoral college votes, meaning that he will become the president in January, pending the outcome of any legal challenges. The reason why we can say that Joe Biden has won the election is because we are projecting that he has won the key state of Pennsylvania, taking the 20 electoral votes from that state. This means that he has 273 electoral votes, taking him across the 270 mark. So
that is it. Joe Biden becomes the 46th president of the United States. He will be 78 years old on election day after a career of half a century, the oldest president ever to take office.
James, we are still saying it is a projection. This is the BBC's projection, but indeed, that is where we are right now. I think we should cross to the BBC's Yalda Hakim, who is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Yalda, this is a moment of history. What is the reaction there in Pennsylvania?
Well, it is, as you say, a historic moment. Suddenly, there's been a lot of movement. Hardly anyone here in the streets. The National Guard is just around the corner, here to help the Philadelphia police. Obviously, they're preparing for a moment like this. There have been demonstrations, the pro-Trump camp, as well as anti-Trump demonstrators around the corner from here. So there has been some movement. The press are just standing behind me, and there's a lot of movement inside as well. They've been continuing to count, and they've been doing it meticulously, but just in the last few minutes, the BBC has said this is a projection. CNN and some of the other American networks have called it. They said that they would. Our CBS partners yesterday said they would once the margin between them reached between 20,000 and 30,000 votes. It's now closer to 30,000 votes. More votes, and the numbers were released earlier, just a few moments ago. So I suppose that put them in a position to call this and mathematically say that once it goes beyond that sort of margin that's 0.5%, that they would call it. So this really is a historic moment, and for it to come down really to Pennsylvania with its 20 electoral college votes, the boy from Scranton, the young Joe Biden, who was born here in this state and who began his campaign here, who ended his campaign here. He visited Pennsylvania 19 times throughout this campaign period. It was an incredibly important state for him. He put his headquarters here in Philadelphia, so really gives you a sense of just how important Pennsylvania is. And really, Pennsylvania is the birthplace of America. It's where the Declaration of Independence happened in 1776, where the Constitutional Convention was held in 1787. So quite a significant moment for it to be coming down to Pennsylvania, and for this state to push the next president over the, well, we're still projecting it, but as CNN said, they've called it, and they've described him as the 46th president of the United States, making him the oldest president at 78. Don't forget, he was also one of the youngest senators in this country, and he'd make that journey from Delaware to Washington, D.C. daily. To go to the Senate. He's got quite a tragic story, which really, captured the hearts of so many Americans here when his wife tragically was killed in a car accident, and so was his young daughter. He raised his two young boys in Delaware. And now described as the 46th president of the United States by CNN and some other American networks.
Yalda, this really is a moment of history. As you say, so many firsts in this election, an extraordinary election, and now the BBC projecting that Joe Biden has won the race to the White House. The BBC projecting it, but as you say, other networks are calling this as well. American networks, PA, the Press Association also giving the race to Joe Biden. We are expecting some kind of reaction from President Trump's lawyers where you are. Is there anything they can do at this point to overturn this result?
There are an army of lawyers descending here on Pennsylvania, and they have been here. Lawyers are holding a press conference here in Philadelphia to talk about what legal avenues that they can take. We've spoken to some lawyers on both sides. Some say the president has a leg to stand on and he will pursue the various cases. Others are saying that the kind of mail-in votes that they're talking about discounting are just a handful and not enough to really put any kind of change or change the outcome here. Just in the last few minutes, the city officials released more votes, and that really put Joe Biden in the lead by about 30,000 votes, and that's really where the US networks were waiting before they called it, so that it would reach over 30,000 and that gap would be so wide that it couldn't be disputed. But of course, Donald Trump's lawyers say they will pursue this, they will take it on, that he's not willing to concede, and so we will have to wait and see what his lawyers do here.
Yalda Hakim in
Yalda
Philadelphia.
Hakim from Philadelphia there, reporting on the results in Pennsylvania, because that is the reason that we are now calling Joe Biden president-elect. He has projected to win in Pennsylvania, which means that multiple news agencies are now giving him the presidency.
Let's stay in Washington, speak to our correspondent Gary O'Donoghue, who is in Washington itself. Gary, thinking back to earlier this year when Joe Biden was almost down and out after those two first primaries, Iowa and New Hampshire, and now it's come to this.
It is an extraordinary comeback in many ways for the former vice president. The third time he's run for president, don't forget, and here he is at this age making the White House finally, really fighting off a huge Democratic field. Many people thought he was too old to do it. Many people thought he was too old-fashioned to do it, too much of the center to do it. And here he is practically with his hands on the keys to the White House. The maths we know are pretty clear now. He's over that 270 mark. If the president wins all the remaining states, which it looks like he's not going to do, he still doesn't have enough. Of course, we have all those legal challenges outstanding. We have some recounts outstanding, perfectly legitimate recounts, but it does become increasingly impossible for the president to turn this result around. We understand that the president himself is no longer at the White House. We're told that he's traveled to one of his golf courses in Virginia. He may or may not be on the course now getting that news. But this will be a huge moment for the White House, obviously a huge moment for the White House, but again, a particularly huge moment in terms of how they respond politically to this Rubicon that has now been crossed. What do they say? Do their lawyers tell them they have any chance in terms of these challenges? Will the other states that start to come in make the maths pretty impossible, even if you have success in one particular legal challenge? All these calculations will be going on now, and the person at some point who has to go to the president, presumably in the last few minutes, and say, "Excuse me, Mr. President, you've lost." You wouldn't want to be that person.